I've already got it mushroomed out. I'm gonna thicken up his handle a little bit more. Got some more work to do down here. I know this side doesn't look like a poker yet, but will when I'm done with this side. I gotta get this side done first. See how it works. All right, so I've done some of my work so far off camera, and I do apologize. I just got in the habit of doing things, as blacksmiths do sometimes. I'm trying. Hey, just gotta bear with me. And yes, I know I'm not using the correct hammer, at least according to some blacksmiths. But it's not about how hard you swing. It's about the technique that you use in order to move your metal. One of the best blacksmiths in the world is a daughter of a friend of mine, has a blacksmithing school over in Logan, Ohio. His name is Doug Lockhart. He's a Lockhart School of Blacksmithing. He's a very, very knowledgeable man. If you're wanting to seek out the highest knowledge you could, I recommend him. Me and my buddy Mark, we put on classes ourselves. We're beginner, intermediate, and whatnot. We can do a fair amount of things, but we're not as knowledgeable as him. Of course, that comes with the amount of years he's got into it. Me, I've never taken a professional class of any kind. Mine's all YouTube and trial and error, which I don't necessarily recommend, but it worked out for me. You do as you want to. I can't tell you whether or not to do one or the other. But with that, you learn techniques. Now, a lot of smiths will go, "You're using a light hammer. It's not very big. You can't move metal with that." Again, it's not about how hard you hit. It's about your technique. I learned for a long time using this as a detail hammer, which I know this isn't a blacksmithing hammer. This is technically an east wing claw hammer. But I used it for a long time learning how to do detail work. And in doing so, I've learned how to move metal with a light hammer. Pretty decent. And when I get a hold of a hammer that's worth using to some people, I can move metal pretty quick. It's techniques you pick up over the years. And like I said, I've been doing this for a while. And every smith has a couple select hammers that they use on a daily basis, and they have the names for them. Now, not every blacksmith, but at least a few that I know. We all have names for our hammers, and it's not just because we're crazy, but I am. I'm straight bonkers, but we're not going to get into that. The reason why we name our hammers is because if we're doing something and we're, in a hot moment with a piece of work, and we need a specific hammer, all we got to do is holler at one of our buddies or one of our helpers in the shop. It will yell out a name, and they know what hammer we're talking about because they're used to our equipment. And this one, like I said, I know he's not the biggest hammer, and everybody's going to complain about it and whatnot, but I call him Arthur Dent. And if you know what movie he's from, good on you. The hint is he's a hitchhiker, which this one was. I found him alongside the highway, which is why his handle looks the way he does. He was skidded alongside the pavement. And I seen him alongside the highway, and I said, I won't pick that up. And then I took him home and modified his claw hammer into basically a light-duty cross-peen. I did that just because I didn't have any other hammers at the time that was small enough other than a 2-pound engineer's hammer, or later on was a 2-pound cross-peen hammer, but you don't need that big of a hammer all the time. You got to learn how to move what you need to move with what you got. You got to start somewhere. My main kit with all the hammers that I like to use is at our other shop over at the Albany Iron Works. However, this one still does the work. Now, I've done some of my work off camera. That's my fault because I'm used to working by myself and, trying this camera thing out. Forgive me. So I've already done my decorative twist work. I've still yet to do the basket with the marbles, but I've got everything squared away. Let's get the poker side done, okay? Now I'm just drawing it out, and I want to keep it looking square stock-ish, all the way down to the very point of it, if I can help it. Now, once I draw this down, I'll have to drift a hole in it, maybe, to give our other hook. But you gotta be careful, though. Even though technically this is too cold and I should put it back in, it's mild still. Mild feels very forgiving. Gotta learn to work with the metals you got. Soon I'll have this tapered out, and I'll be able to put my little hook in. I'm gonna try and keep you updated as I go. I may forget, and I do apologize. I am just an idiot that likes to swing a hammer. If you want to follow my techniques, good on you. I don't necessarily recommend it because there are better people out there. I just like having fun with it. But, like I said before, come along with me. We learn as we go. I tapered it out to somewhat of a point. I've still got a little bit of refinement to do. I'm going to end up probably putting my other hook in right around in here somewhere. I got to drift that hole in. But my tools are at the other shop. So I'm going to have to work on that one. But here, let me take you over to there real quick. I'll get this all set up. Oh my goodness. Oh, shoot. Are yous okay? I didn't mean to drop yous. I do apologize. But, hey, look, we made it out the other shop. And Mark's here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to finish drifting this out. Like I said, I'm at the other shop. I got all my tools here. Here's my drift that I'm going to end up using. I'm going to have to use this to finish making the drift. I might use this little guy down here to start it. But, sorry for the lighting. Had a shop light died. I'm using a headlamp to make it work. It's fine. However, we're going to start it right around in here where I was talking about. We're going to make this stuff work. Sorry for dropping yous, but stay tuned. I'm going to take this side, and I'm going to use a hot cut. I'm going to cut this off and get it prepared. Granted, it's not going to happen right now. However, excuse me, I'm going to cut this off and taper this to be put on the fire poker to create the hook that I need. Come with me and see how this goes. Ready? Okay, I'm going to set this here. And it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. And the hook right there. That one works too. Okay. All we need for this hot cut is a little over 1/2 inch. 3/4 of an inch will be fine because this is 1/2 inch material. So what we're going to do is we're going to guesstimate, which is I know is a terrible way to go about it. However, we're going to guesstimate about there, so we can cut off what we don't need. We're going to take it and we're going to and we're done. All right, so now that we've got that piece tapered, which I'm going to bring it over here in a minute after I get done with this, I'm going to punch my eye down here at the bottom of this thing. Right about in here. I think ought to be sufficient enough. I'm going to get my little hole started with my punch. Whoa, crap. I wasn't paying attention. I tried to start another hole. That's all right. I'll end up drifting it and folding it in anyway. Apparently, I'm not doing too good with my punch today. All right, slide me in here. Okay. this over. Not quite there yet. I need to punch a little bit further. All right. Apparently that thing's not as hot as it once was. So I'm going to put this back in because I got to get it hot, and I'm going to try and come through on this side. Hopefully I meet the same hole. I started drifting a eye on this side. Now I've got to reach over here on the other side and figure out where I'm punching my hole at. And rotate. Hopefully, I drift through the same part. Rotate. Yay, look at that. And I'm knocking out the plug now. All right. Flip it. Flip it. Flip it. All right, she's getting too cold. My anvil's cold, and it's sucking all my heat out. But I suppose that's the price you pay when you go to forge in cold weather. It's all right. Fix up my punch here. I'm gonna stick it back in for another heat. Now that I've got this thing heated up again, I'm gonna go ahead and finish drifting out this eye. Oh, safety glasses on. All right. Flip it. Cool. All right, now that that eye is drifted out, I've got to straighten up my piece a little bit here and get it ready for when it's time to put the hook on. All right. Now, hopefully, I can get that piece cut in, and we're good to go. Well, as soon as I throw things on the floor, because I'm done looking at it, apparently, I need to readjust this, and I've got to taper out just a little. I know that that hole is plenty big, and I shouldn't have to taper anymore, but I want to clean this up some. If I could even hold on to it. Need to get a different pair of tongs to hold this. All right, let's see how well that taper holds up to the eye. That fits quite nicely. Now I know that is a bit much, and I will have to shorten that down some. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get this hot, and I'm gonna upset this a little bit, give it a little bit more girth, so that it fits down in the eye, because right now it fits down in the eye just fine. and I can shape it and do everything I need to. But the amount of space I have on that backside eye is a little more than I care for, but it's okay, I can fix it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this back in, I'm gonna find another pair of tongs, I'm gonna upset this. Now that I pulled this out and we got it hot enough, I'm gonna try and upset it some. What? You're hitting it without using the hammer? No, you shouldn't do that. Of course you should. That's how some of the best upsetting jobs you can do, other than, you know, calling it names and making it mad. You can get it all kinds of upset. But we're not doing that right now. We're trying to make it happy. Why? Because I wanted to do what I needed to do. Little bit more. See how I'm starting to get it a little bit fatter here than it was? Exactly what we want. One more round. Now we're back after that heat. I'm going to do some more anything but name calling, I guess. Finish up setting it some more. Getting it nice and fat where I need it to. And skinny where I need it to. Man, don't you wish that happened for bodies? I'm going to tell you, I can use a lot of that myself. However, we're going to continue doing that to this piece. Now, I will have a bunch of excess, so I'm not super worried about it entirely, but I do want to thicken it up just a little bit, just so that when I stick it in through that eye, it's a good snug fit. Because we don't want it to just slip in there real easy. We want it to fight us a little bit. That way, when I go to rivet that thing in on the other side, it sets in there real nice. All right, let's see our fitment. Yeah, buddy, we're getting there. We're getting there. Got to do a little bit more upsetting. What I'm going to end up having to do is I'm going to have to pull it out of the forge next time. I'm going to have to flip it around. I'm going to have to quench most of it except for the end, the stem of it. I need to localize the heat for that one. Let's follow along. What we're going to do here, I need to act quick because I only got so much time for this heat. I'm going to quench this out and leave that stem setting out there. Cool. Now you can see my colors have changed, and that's what we want. I'll grab this side of it quickly, if I can. I'll grab it. Yeah. See, now we're starting to get some sort of a uniform thickness. It's exactly what we want. Yeah, buddy. All right. Okay. I wish I'd have brought my my mortising punch so I can have a square hole to deal with. That would have made things so much better, but I don't have one that small. Something I need to work on. However, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stick this back in the fire, and I'm going to squish that eye just a little bit, but while it's hot, I'm going to take this while it's cold, and I'm going to cram it down in there and make it fit. And then after that, I'll pull this back out and get this hot, stick that back down in there, and then I'll rivet it shut. Hopefully this goes exactly as planned. But knowing my luck, probably not. Let's try this. Now comes time for the potentially really bad part. There's the side I need down. Come on, get back down in there. Let's go. Come on. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. That's actually working out just like I wanted it to. All right. See, before we had it kind of rounded, which I know I squished it out some, but it was rounded from my punch. Doing that tapers out and squares a hole like a mortise. It's just what we want. Let's try that one more again. I got to do it the other side. Ooh, I was pretty mean to that, wasn't I? All right, so I'm going to take this. I'm going to taper this side just a little bit. Not as bad as the other side. I just want it mortised in just enough to help that square off. But there we go. There we go. That's kind of better. That's kind of better. Go back through this side. Mortise it off some more. Cool. All right, we're almost ready to make this all one piece. And I know a lot of people ask sometimes when we're out doing shows and things, why do smiths tap the anvil with their hammer while they're working on stuff? And it's a myriad of different things. And the main reasons, especially for the few that I know, is one, when you're hammering, that metal, no matter what you're doing, is causing your hammer to bounce around and go to different places. So sometimes if you're not paying attention and you're hitting wrong, you're going to end up hitting your metal in the wrong direction that you want to, and that's just going to screw up your piece. But putting the hammer down on the anvil and smacking it like that will allow it to realign in your hand so you can have it straight. And I do that a lot. However, if you listen where I'm tapping, if you're watching my hands, I'm using that tap on the anvil to keep my rhythm and keep my timing. That way I can go from either one to either one without missing a beat. Little tricks of the trade. Round two. Hopefully the court system will allow these two to actually be together. And when I say court system, I mean my luck, because that doesn't ever want to work out for nobody. Uh-oh. All right. So now that I've got it in there, it is one piece. I'm going to have to flux this and hopefully weld it together. Lay that down in some of this excess flux I got here and try to finish marrying this together. Hopefully I can do this in one run. Although it doesn't appear that I'm going to be able to. Oh no! I've melted my flux lid together. Yeah! Yeah! Gotta love flux. However, that does mean I got it pretty hot. And maybe, just maybe, I got these two to marry in holy matrimony. Nope. That's upsetting. But it's okay. Unfortunately, what I will have to do probably is I will have to weld a little, because I don't want to start over. But it is okay. Because not every blacksmith can make a forge weld work out. That's why they invented welders. That is also why I'm a blacksmith and a metal fabricator. Because just in case things don't want to work out the way I want to, I can hot glue them. Which is not the way I want to do things, but sometimes it is what it is. However, my welder's at my shop, and I don't have any of my welding gear here, so I'll have to make that do then. But that's okay, because what we can do in the meantime is we can birdcage the handle. I just have to quench this out. Now, need to take an angle grinder. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take an angle grinder and I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to start my cuts. I'm going to finish it with a hot cut. And in doing so, I would like to thank Master Force Tools, one of our sponsors. Great people. Everybody thinks these tools are just a house brand. It ain't no count. They hold up to what we do. If they can hold up to what we do, they can hold up to any homeowner. Not only that, but they're made in the same factory as Makita. Not a bad tool. Everybody watch yourselves. And if there's any flat disc cutoff wheel companies that would like to sponsor us along with our tools, so feel free to reach out. Let's put this back in the fire, get this good and warm, and finish our cuts with a hot cut. And I know you're thinking, why not just finish your cuts with the angle grinder? It's because sometimes an angle grinder will overreach where we're wanting to cut. With a hot cut, we can be more precise. And I know that there's going to be some keyboard warriors out there. You're using power tools. That's not traditional blacksmithing. Blacksmiths would have used hot cuts to begin with. Yeah, you're right. They would have. However, that was only because they didn't have access to the tools we have nowadays. You daggone right. A blacksmith back in the day, if he could have used the power tool that would have made his job quicker and easier, absolutely he would have used it. Why? Blacksmiths weren't about, oh, we have to keep it traditional. We have to do this. We have to do that. No, they made everything the town needed. Their schedule was always busy. They were always tired. So if they could have used something that made their job quicker and easier, you daggone right they would have. Unfortunately, and I didn't realize it until after it was too late, but my microphone had died on me, and all of my audio for this part of the video is lost. But what I'm trying to explain is that since I've got my cuts all made to make the bird cage, I'm going to use my twisting tool there. I'm going to twist it up and make it tight, and I'm going to flip that tool back around after I'm done, and I'm going to loosen that, and it will open those bars up like a bird cage, which is why they're called a bird cage. And I've done it several times before, some with good luck, some with bad luck. You can't always make those bars do what you want when you're twisting them. You have to go back and fix them after you're done. And that one turned out okay. I had a couple bars go wonky on me. So I grabbed my trusty homemade wooden hammer there. It's out of some chunks of wood that I had brought home from a previous job I had. And kind of hammer it back straight. That way I can get my bars at least halfway lined up. And once I get them about where I like, then I start talking about how everything looks good. I just got to go back through once I get over to my other shop and not only open the cage back up and put in marbles, which I was going to try, but give me a chance to finish working on the fire poker. So now we're going to take this and go back to the other shop. Why don't you go ahead and come with me? All right, now I've made it back to my shop. Unfortunately, on the way over, I noticed that there was a crack in the point and hook on the back side, and it broke off, which was disheartening. And as bad as I hate to say it, I did some work off camera because, I felt bad. Almost wanted to quit, but you can't. So you got to take your project, make lemonade when you get lemons. You know how that goes. So I re-tapered it out. I'm going to fold it over and do a different technique on the end. Stay along with me as we do this. All right, so I've done a bunch of the tapering. Yes, it's off camera, but it's just tapering. So you guys have seen most of that before. What I did was I took a hot cut. I made me a mark right here. That's where I'm going to do my fold at, if I can get it to work out. I'm going to use my hardy hole here on the anvil, and I'm going to make that cut be my hinge point. And I'm going to fold that over just enough to get to where I can get it started. I'm going to finish hammering it on. There we go. That's about where I want it, right? Almost smack in the middle. I haven't quite decided if I'm going to do a forge weld or if I'm just going to go through and MIG weld that crease together. My forge here at this shop, it doesn't get quite hot enough for me to be able to do a lot of forge welding, and it's getting almost too cold outside to do much cold forge, which I still can, don't get me wrong, but the loss of heat from the cold forge to in here may affect the forge welding just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to put this back in the forge, I'm going to crease this together and see how far we get with it. Okay, so I've got my crease where I need it. I just got to fold it on. Now see, I've got it starting to taper, and I'm going to taper it more just so that I can get that point in there. But like I said, my little forge I've got here that I do little things with isn't quite hot enough, and my cold forge out there is outside, and I can light it up. I'd have to get it almost melting hot, which kind of is what you want, but I'd have to get it too hot to forge weld it here at my shop. And I don't feel it entirely necessary to go all the way back to the other shop just to be able to do a forge weld. So I'll close this up a little bit, and I'll probably MIG weld it. It'll be fine. Granted, some keyboard warrior is going to be like, that's not how traditional blacksmiths will do it. Again, like I said before, if blacksmiths back in the day had the opportunity to use the tools we have today, you daggone right they would. It's time saving, and it's mess saving. It's a lot easier to go and make it glue on rather than fight for about 20, 30 minutes and hope you get a weld. I know that sounds bad. I know I do a lot of traditional blacksmithing because all of my stuff is by hand, but it's modified. We'll call it, like when they restore cars, they call it resto mod. It's restored back to its original with some modern updates. Kind of what we do here. Resto smithing, I guess, if you want to call it that. So hold on. Let me finish doing this. I lost my heat while I was talking because I'm a big blabbermouth. But I'm going to put this back in here. I'm going to get it hot again. I'm going to smash it up. I'm going to see where I'm at. We'll go. I pulled this back out of the forge here. I'm going to set and try to hammer this together as flat as I can, kind of, sort of, because I have to go back through and fix this. But you can already see right in here, from here forward, is where my hook's going to be, and it's going to come out this way. So this will be the taper. Right now is the time where I need to keep this straight, sort of. Now that everything is kind of a uniform where I need it to be, I got to finish tapering out in a minute, but I'm going to weld this up. Yes, it's not traditional, but we've already talked about this. It'll be fine. Watch the end process. I may even show you some welding. Hold on. All right, so now that I've got this on my weld table, in my homemade weld table setup, yeah, I got a weird helmet, I got a weird setup, it's fine, don't worry about it, we're going to do this and get trucking with it. Hold on, let's see. Do a couple stitches. That way I ain't got nothing running from me. I'll start into it. That pole might be a little hot. Hi-ho, silver and away. Go a little bit further up. That ought to be plenty good. Now let's flip her over and give it another shot on the other side. Ready? And hi-ho silver. You double check and make sure that we're welded the same length on them both sides. I need just a touch more. That ought to be just fine. Because what I'm going to do after this is I'm going to end up forging it out and shaving it down just to make it all look uniform and whatnot. But it'll be fine. Okay, so I pulled this out of the forge. Welds are looking okay with it. Just got to hammer a few of them in to get them to set real good. And that's why you should wear eye protection. Don't be me, I'm stupid. It's a little cold, I gotta put it back in. And after I get done shaving and shaping, everything looks good. Except for out of my left eye, but that's just because like I said, use eye protection. Don't be like me. Let's put this back in. Maybe we'll give it a twist for decoration, and then we'll work on bringing my hook out. I got done doing the twist, which my mic wasn't on for, but I'm using I call it my German grenade hammer for dealing with twists, because I got that nice twist in there. I know you can't really see it right now. You have to look at it when I get done with it. But now, since that's done, and I've got it twisted and everything's looking good and straight and all this, I'm going to have to get it hot again, and I'm going to pull out my hook. Now that I've got all that done, these are weld pliers, about as good as tweaking tongs as you can get without having to go and either make some or find someone that sells tweaking tongs. Ooh, that could have been real bad right there. Get that all twisted out. Pull out one of my other hammers, because my other hammer was not where it needed to be for a second, but that was my own doing. Okay. Got that all set up, set in. Now I got to get that hot again, and we're going to recurl that hook. And we're going to take this thing. I'm going to get it straightened back out. Because what we want it to do is have a slight hook on the end of it. Kind of like that right there. Now I may have to go back through and clean some of this up from where the weld is right here, showing. But it'll be all right, because the rest of it looks just fine. And that right there, my friends, is a decent little hook. I think that ought to suffice. What do you think? Got to quench this thing out. And then we'll start again with the other side, bird caging that handle. All right, so I was going to bird cage it and put a couple marbles in, but I had a catastrophic failure on one of the posts, so we're just going to knock this down and make it look halfway decent. I might have to MIG a spot together, but a nice twisted handle is not bad looking. And even though it's got a break in it, which I can sand out the rough edges of it a little bit, it's still a nice looking handle. I am not going to grab it right now, obviously, because I may be dumb, but I ain't that dumb. Although I have been tempted before. We're not going to get into that, though. However, outside of quenching and rubbing down with oil, I believe that is a decent size fire poker that meets the standards of about a 3-foot poker. I know it's not beautiful. I'll show you pictures when I'm done with it, maybe a quick video. But that's how you make a fire poker. Thanks for staying tuned. Have a good one.